The G8 and G20 Youth Summits are events that bring together youngsters representing the G8 and G20 nations. It's an opportunity for them to discuss real-world issues with other young people representing their country of origin. At the end of the summit, each delegation has a responsibility to deliver a final communiqué to their respective government. This communiqué is a result of 3 days of negotiations on themes similar to those of the actual G8 and G20. The 2011 negotiations took place in Paris in the beginning of June in ESCP Europe, a renowned business school. Why do these young people spend their time and money on such an event? Who are these delegates, and does their work really benefit the world? Let's see what this year's delegates have to say.
I went to the one in Vancouver last year and met all these amazing people, these brilliant young people who are really passionate about issues from all over the world, and I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to come to this, I wanted to do a similar thing, but further to that, you know, it's in Paris, it's closer to London. I haven't been to Paris in about 10 years. The issues that were being discussed were things that fascinated me. You know, when you're given the opportunity to represent your country on an international stage, you absolutely take that.
I've been in other events like these ones, lots of models of the United Nations, but I've never been in events like this in another country. So when I heard the reasons why they were building it, and when I heard that it wasn't a model, that it was an actual summit, I was like, there won't be any opportunity for me like this in the future if I don't take this one first.
Firstly, of course, because I'm representing my country, and in that way that I can speak up and about the interests of my country in this G20 forum.
We saw this as a chance to say, hey, Mexico is here, and we can represent it clearly and good, and you'll see that Mexicans are nice people and Mexicans have opinions.
Try to promote my ideas, try to promote European ideas on this level.
And secondly, of course, I'm very happy because I can meet many new people. I like to have new friends, and there are many smart people from different countries that I can learn.
It is a great opportunity to get to know other people in the first place, who are interested in the same subject as I am.
Just to see people from different countries, to share some experience, to know their interests.
Then I like the idea to travel to Paris, to be honest. And see the city.
I feel that the G8 and G20 Youth Summits are an excellent venue for the interaction of youth from all over the world, for the exchange of ideas within the younger generation, and for the building of networks that hopefully, leadership networks that hopefully will sustain our generation for many years of facing international challenges.
First of all, because I'm passionate for international affairs, and I truly believe in the G20, the real G20 model. I believe that the combination between emerging countries and developed countries can profit a lot, and I mean for the whole world.
It enables me to see in more detail how negotiations are done, even if it's a youth summit. Try to influence a little bit the real governance process.
Begin with something what I consider is of more basic importance, and that is that following the environmental discourse for the last few years, I realize that though there is a lot of talk happening, there isn't much action. But I would like to see change that is visible to the common man, who doesn't understand what is the G8 G20 process, who doesn't understand what happens at the government level, but who understands that there is a real will of bringing about a change. It's not about 5-star hotels and conferences, because I've spent a lot of money coming here and I'm sponsoring myself. I want to see if there's something real that I'm taking back. If I can connect to the other person, every delegate here, on a more human level. I'm also looking at, a little bit more depth, wherein we all know the issues. Anybody who's following the environmental debate knows the issues, knows the problems, knows the solution. But then, why does nothing happen? Or at a pace that we can see? So yeah, that's what I'm trying to explore.
I just graduated last Friday from the Tecnológico de Monterrey, the institute which I come from. I made a major in international relations with a minor on international law.
I come from Slovakia. I was born in Prague. I studied in Paris for 5 years, and now I'm doing a traineeship at the European Commission in Brussels.
I actually work for Parliament, and my job as an outreach officer is to travel the country and talk to people about how Parliament works, and we do that by offering training to people about how they can get more involved in lawmaking.
I'm currently studying master in Qatar. I'm taking Master of Islamic Finance.
We established a startup company with my friends. It deals with tourist services for foreigners, but actually it, I would say, failed, unfortunately, but it was a good experience nevertheless. Well, and now I'm working in a sphere called social media marketing. So, and now I don't know, maybe I will continue, or maybe I will just try to establish another business, maybe.
In the future, I really would like to be a diplomat. So this is sort of a dream come true for me.
I'm in a fellowship with the U.S. Department of State, and as such, they have prepared me for a career in the diplomatic service. So I'll be joining the U.S. Foreign Service next year when I'm finished with my master's program as a political officer.
I really expect to work with the international relations and summits like this, maybe becoming a diplomat or working with business diplomacy or things like this, or even like with non-governmental organizations.
I'm confident that a lot of the people I met here will be people who make significant contributions to the resolution of future global challenges.
Of course, not all of us will be part of international institutions or national institutions or the G8, G20, but I'm sure that as far as we are really concerned and interested in these issues, we will have a role in the world of tomorrow.
I'm cautiously optimistic for the future when I come here and interact with all of these very fascinating, cosmopolitan, and yet at the same time rootedly national and conscious of their heritage and conscious of their roots, these people who so earnestly desire to solve the world's problems.
Before and after the negotiations, several forums are organised. Their purpose is to give delegates an idea of what governance means for the current economic and administration leaders. CEOs like Christophe de Margerie from French multinational Total gives the aspiring leaders advice on the best ways to negotiate and initiates a debate on world governance. Some delegates are more interested than others, although everyone agreed to say that the negotiation process was exhausting.
In 2005, when International Youth Diplomacy League started to organize the G8 Youth Summit, we officially addressed with official letters to 7 general consuls of 7 countries in St. Petersburg. And we asked them to connect us with the ministers of education and with different universities, and like that we organized the first selection to the first delegations. And since 2007, the second summit in Berlin, it was much easier to do that because there were 8 organizing committees and the network.
Between 2008 and 2009, something really interesting happened is that we came from the G8 to the G20. So from the former G8 organizations, we are to reach out in G20 countries young people that were interested in taking the lead of a local organization and be the branch of the G20 Youth Network. We French had as a key goal, as a target, to develop the network up to have all G20 members present in our G8 and G20 Youth Summits. We have not been elected. Nobody has not been elected because there is no youth parliament all over the world. So basically what we did is that in countries where there is a local organization committee, this committee has gathered academic and political partners in a jury that has been selecting through a long process the delegates. Motivation, ability to speak in English and negotiate in English, knowledge on the technical ground, etc., etc. Everybody could participate in that. So it was inclusive enough to be legitimate. And from there, in some countries, there were no local organizations. So basically we gathered a jury of 3 persons. We had the former organizers, the Canadians, a person from youth diplomacy and a person from the US. They selected people from the countries where there was no local organization.
Last month there are interviews in my country to select the people who are gonna represent Indonesia in this G20. So I also applied myself, and then they had their own selection, and I didn't know how the process could be. But then after several steps and process, that my name was included as one of the delegates as a head of state.
Basically, I found the information and the link to this big event on Facebook, and I just applied for being a candidate for the European delegation.
It's from internet. From Facebook, basically, yeah, from internet, and also some of my friends were represented. Participated in the G20 in Canada last year.
I sent an email with my CV, and they replied me back right away. Then.
So how did you heard of it?
I was on the social network, the event. So
on Facebook, or?
Yeah, of course, through friends posted, I heard about it.
So we had an application procedure. We had to send one, and we had to submit our writing samples. And then out of the pool of applicants who applied,
a friend of mine told me, who works for the organization, for the German OC, told me that it's possible to participate.
Okay, and there was a telephonic interview, and I made it, and here I am.
He told me that he thinks I'm perfect for the job, so I just believed him.
Since we don't have a youth summit organization, we made everything through them, through the organizing committee from France. I never knew them till this week. I never knew who they were. I knew them from Facebook and Twitter, but I never met them in person. They didn't have a partial view. They only saw our curriculums and our essays, and based on that, they saw that we were apparently, or at least we looked like the best that Mexico could give, and that's quite cool. That's something to be proud of.
I chose to apply for the presidency because I felt I had a significant amount of leadership experience to bring to the team. I've been active in Model UN and other sorts of youth diplomacy and youth summits, and I felt that I could bring some experience and some leadership. I was very interested also in being Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense because my interests lie in international relations and defense policy.
I applied for environment and development, but according to my skills and my level of knowledge, I was approved and selected for finances. So I was actually just trying for something new, but the fact that I sticked with the things I knew was very good as well, and I'm really enjoying my committee and the actual subjects that we've been discussing.
Through applications for visas and passport and financing from their respective institutions, we lost some of our delegates. So I had to step in and play the role of Sherpa. I didn't really apply for the role, but I just had to take it up.
I always wanted to be head of state. I mean, I didn't know if I was going to get it. I thought about being a Sherpa because I love helping my colleagues and I love talking to them, and I could have been a good Sherpa, I hope.
The second choice was Sherpa, because I really like the idea of being a reference point for all the delegates of my delegation. Well, the Sherpa is the person who brings the intentions and the ideas and the priorities of the government to the other governments, to the other delegates, to the other Sherpas, in order to set the agenda.
It feels like you are a secret agent. You know, you just get there, all quiet, take notes, and then you move to the next one.
They remain to be the reference point for all the delegates in order to have always a person which is informed of the situation of each panel.
And the whole me being around all the different ministries, I'm learning quite a lot, I must say, because I had less knowledge about the environment and everything, because my line of study is not connected to that. So I think being a Sherpa is the best, besides the fact that you don't get the chance to share ideas. But after their negotiations, we have a national delegation meeting where we meet as our own countries, and then there we get to voice our opinions because we have more views on all the other ministries. So that's when I get to be the chair.
Model UN is different primarily from this summit in that it's competitive, explicitly. Model UN frequently focuses on winning awards, whereas the Youth G8 G20 Summit is really not so much a model. The Youth G8 G20 Summit is a real approximation rather than a simulation of what occurs in the G8 and G20. All of the delegates here actually represent the countries from which they come. They represent their home countries, their home governments, and therefore they tend to be familiar with the policies of their governments and also with the ways in which they hope those policies will change. It's not about simulating the policies of a government, but rather representing your own country, its interests, its values, its policies, but representing them flexibly. Because we're youth, we're not part of the official government, and while we have to take into account all of the constraints that any of the proposals we put forward would face in the real G8 and G20, we also need to take into account the limitations of the present system and the solutions that are currently proposed within those fora. So when it comes down to making the final communiqué, it should really be a blend. It should be a balance of youthful idealism and hopes to change the policy structures in the world, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, the real constraints and the real understandings of how the policy processes work.
We kept negotiating through Skype and through other technological measures, and we kept having telephonic conversations, and we kept having a lot of email sending so as to explain our positions to each other. Because, for example, I'm representing India as the environment minister, but there is so much input that I need from my finance minister or economics minister or development ministers, because these problems are all interrelated. I don't think that it would be exaggerated to say that we were living, breathing and eating it, because as I said, as youngsters we see a lot of things, but when we start getting into the waters, we realize that there is so much that we don't know, and we can't be talking sense unless we have fathom the entire facts, the literature that is present, and then enthuse that with creativity to come up with innovative solutions.
Since I have replaced one person in my delegation, so I think I have been preparing nearly for a month. It was some kind of difficult for me to combine it with my studies and some of my other activities, but nevertheless, I think it was useful for me to do this research. Of course, it took some time. Of course, not everyone is a specialist, not everyone is an expert, but, well, this is a model, so we are not here just to make something special.
Everyone is very friendly and willing to compromise in a lot of issues, and I really like how the conference is going.
I think all the things we've proposed are going very well. We've got in agreement in many of the things that we've proposed and that other people have proposed, and we've put things together in a way that would benefit both developing countries and developed countries.
Well, it's okay. It's a little bit boring as well. The purpose, of course, for having the communiqué done, but yeah, maybe they're just like not make it very boring from morning until afternoon. I mean, just sitting and then listening and talking is quite boring, but should be okay. Maybe I suggest that we can have more like social events.
I hung out last night with the Russian delegation, and we were secretly drinking vodka in the restaurant. Yeah, we ordered some beer or some drink, and after we drink up the thing that I ordered, we just refill it with the vodka we had under the table, mixing with the juice, and we were like mixing vodka, beer, and lemon.
For starters, being up the Eiffel Tower was beautiful.
And what's the name of the mix? It's Georgi something?
We went to a place called Champs-Élysées. Champs-Élysées. All right, that's Champs-Élysées, and it was a good food, salad and dessert and boisson. What is boisson? Is the main menu? Entree. Is it salad? Is it? Yeah, something like that.
I was with Russian and some Germans, and yeah, there were a table of Japanese, Turkish people sitting next to us.
We're not going out because we agreed to have a little sleep here, but actually we plan to go out. I like this informal communication.
It depends on the country, but there are two things to be known. The first one is that the French government is chairing the G8 and the G20. So if the chair knows it, everyone will know it. And second point is that some local organizations have direct contact with their government, so it means that they will be able to deliver the final communiqué in that country.
I'm just hoping, like, it's hard for you to say, oh, they are going to read it. One thing is when you hand it in, and the other one is they actually sitting down and flipping page by page to read it.
I hope that it will be read by the political actors in the real world. Although I have to say I don't have any illusions that it has that the impact of it is too big.
Well, I'm not very familiar with the rules of procedure because our delegation...
How many are you in your delegation?
2 people.
2 people.
And we don't have the sherpa and the head of state. So there's some information flow that is not really reaching us, or clear to me at least.
We have planned as well with my countrymate to send these papers to the government. We are currently trying to search. I mean, it's like the link that can be given to the right people in the government.
The negative part of summits like these is that people meet together and they share ideas and come up with all those ways of improving their countries. But then the implementation stage, that's where the problem lies, if we really carry out what we have discussed. So, for example, our last year's communiqué, it got delivered there, but then nothing was really done about it. Which is why this year we have already made an appointment with the presidency. It's our duty to present it at the different institutions, because just giving it to them doesn't mean that they will actually do something about it.
Of course, it's some kind of idealistic model, but nevertheless, we see each other. Well, it was really interesting for me to talk with people, for example, India, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia, and etc. And now, actually, I can understand more what their interests, what their position, and etc.
A more important thing for me is, what do I as an individual take back home? And for me, it is the understanding of how things really work, because here I think we are all leaders for tomorrow. So this is just the beginning, and this is very crucial for us to say, how do you sit down on a round table with people of diverse interest, diverse background. Every experiment that's done here is as important as it would be, in times to come for the real change.
We are not only saying to the head of states, this is the youth communiqué and you should implement it. Our alumni are working in governments, are working in transnational companies, and they were raised in this project and during this project, and they will implement by themselves all those ideas written in the youth communiqué. I think that after the Paris summit, it would be very important to implement the idea of G8 and G20 Youth Summits alumni clubs and alumni networks.
It's not only one person hanging out on his own. It's not only. The last day of negotiation was followed by a long night for the heads of state panel. Based on their respective delegations' work, they had to make a coherent final communiqué that was ultimately given to the French administration. Let's hear what their opinion is at the end of the summit.
Well, this is probably the typical answer you've got. I think the summit was a great success. I think we covered a lot of ground. I think all the different ministries and the ministers within those panels were pretty robust in putting forward not just achievable, but idealistic goals as well. They didn't just stick for one school of thought or the other. I think they really went for it, and I think I'm quite proud of everybody, really, that they managed to reach consensus on what were some quite controversial topics. I think as in the head of state, head of government panel, as the delegation leaders, I'd say that's where I came into contact with the biggest failure, in that we didn't manage our own time properly, and that's something that all the heads of government, I think, will admit to. When everybody else aimed to finish at 5, they finished at 9, they were 4 hours late. The heads of state didn't finish our communiques until about midnight, and we didn't finish going through everybody else's until about 6 o'clock this morning.
So you didn't sleep?
I haven't. No, look, I haven't slept at all. No, so I'm hoping it won't show too much.
We were quite out of schedule, and we therefore had to delay everything. But well, it didn't go that bad because of course we worked all night during the night to find a compromise on all tables, it has gone quite quickly because, well, it's only English rephrasing and the native speakers are the more qualified to do this.
But I think out of that and out of the spirit of cooperation that you need to have in a group in order to get a communique from people who speak maybe a variety of 11 different languages, I think that just is a testament to the skill and the dedication of the different people in the industries.
I've never been in the same room with people from 19 different countries, at least that I'm aware about. And more importantly, talking to them, knowing them, debating with them, but sometimes laughing with them. It's amazing. I mean, when will you see another event that can host that many young people from all around the world? And the most amazing thing is we are all sort of the same. We are very interested in our countries. We are very interested in improving the world. So it's a unique chance.
I don't know if it would result into something that we can see immediately, as I said, but if there is a fire, if there is a beginning, then it has to spread. We don't know if we'll reach the destination. For example, I'm always reminded of the words of John F. Kennedy, that all of this cannot be achieved in the first 100 days. It cannot be achieved in the first 1,000 days. It cannot perhaps be achieved in the lifetime of this administration. But let us begin. So, this is a beginning.